Jordan Walker stood in front of Urban Luxe, his flagship store, clutching a plain cardboard box marked Samples, dressed in worn jeans and a hoodie. He looked like just another delivery driver navigating the bustling streets of Manhattan. But inside, his heart raced, not with nerves, but with purpose. Today, Jordan wasn't just delivering samples. He was delivering a test, a decision he had made on impulse, one he hoped would reveal the truth about how his employees treated people they deemed unimportant. Stepping through the sleek glass doors, Jordan was greeted by the polished interiors that symbolized the success of his luxury brand. Yet what unfolded inside wasn't the warm professionalism he had built his company on. It was a chilling glimpse of arrogance and prejudice. Two sales associates, Mark and Rachel, barely glanced at him before making biting comments, their laughter cutting through the air like a blade. "Wrong door," Mark sneered. Rachel added with a smirk, "This isn't your kind of store." What they didn't know was that the man they were mocking was their boss, and he wasn't about to let this moment pass unnoticed. With every comment, every insult, Jordan's resolve hardened. As they turned away, he stayed firm, determined to see their behavior through to the end. Would their arrogance cost them their careers? How would Jordan confront this blatant disrespect? Jordan Walker placed the delivery box on the gleaming counter, his calm demeanor masking the fire burning inside him. "Good morning," he said, his tone even, though he could feel the judgment in their glances. Mark barely looked up, his smirk widening as if he had already decided Jordan was beneath him. "The back door's that way," he said, jerking his thumb dismissively. Jordan took a slow breath, choosing his words carefully. "I was told to deliver these samples here," he replied, his voice steady. Inside, his mind raced. He had expected some resistance, but the overt hostility was sharper than he had imagined. He forced himself to remain patient, knowing this moment wasn't just about him. It was a test for the values he had built his business on, and Mark and Rachel were failing spectacularly. Rachel, scrolling through her phone, didn't bother hiding her annoyance. "We don't usually deal with deliveries here," she said, her tone dripping with superiority. "Just leave it and go." Her words hit like a slap, but Jordan remained composed, meeting her gaze without flinching. He could see the indifference in her eyes, the way she barely acknowledged his presence. It wasn't just disrespect, it was dismissal. "Thank you," Jordan said, his calm tone masking the steel in his resolve. "But I'd prefer to speak with the manager directly." Mark snorted, leaning on the counter. "Listen, buddy, you're lucky we're even letting you stand here," he said, his voice louder now, drawing attention from nearby customers. Jordan felt a pang of anger rise but suppressed it. Years of being underestimated had taught him the power of restraint. He wouldn't let them control the narrative, not yet. From across the store, Linda Carter froze as she caught sight of Jordan. Her heart sank as recognition dawned, and she hurried over, her expression a mix of panic and determination. "Mr. Walker," she whispered urgently, glancing at Mark and Rachel. "What are you doing here?" Jordan gave her a faint smile, the only hint of his true identity. "I'm observing," he said quietly, his tone calm but firm. He didn't need to say more. Linda understood immediately, her face flushing as she glanced back at her colleagues, who continued their mocking exchange, oblivious to the storm about to break. Mark, his smugness unshaken, said curtly, "The manager's busy. Just leave it here and go." His tone was sharper now, almost daring Jordan to push back. But Jordan didn't move. He locked eyes with Mark, his silence more powerful than any argument. Linda finally stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension. "Mark, Rachel, a word. Now." Her tone left no room for argument. The two sales associates exchanged confused glances as she led them aside. "Do you have any idea who that is?" Linda demanded, her voice low but urgent. Mark's expression faltered, his earlier bravado replaced by uncertainty. "A delivery guy," he ventured, his smirk fading. "That," Linda said firmly, "is Jordan Walker, the founder of Urban Luxe." The weight of her words hit like a thunderclap. Mark's face drained of color, and Rachel's phone slipped from her hand, clattering onto the counter. They turned to Jordan, who had removed his cap and was now watching them with a calm intensity that made their shame all the more unbearable. "Mr. Walker, Mark began, his voice trembling, but Jordan held up a hand, silencing him. "You thought," Jordan said, his voice quiet but laced with steel, "that I didn't belong here, that I wasn't worth your respect." Each word landed with precision, stripping away their excuses. "Is this how you treat all delivery workers? Or just the ones who don't fit your idea of who deserves to be here?" The room fell silent as customers and staff turned their attention to the confrontation. Jordan's gaze swept over everyone, his voice rising slightly, not with anger, but with purpose. "This company was built on respect, hard work, and inclusion. I started as a delivery driver myself, and I will not allow anyone to be treated as less than." Mark and Rachel stood frozen, their faces pale as Jordan's words sank in. The balance of power had shifted entirely, and there was no escape. This was the moment Jordan had been waiting for, not to humiliate them, but to expose the cracks in the foundation and rebuild stronger. The lessons they would learn here today weren't just for them. They were for everyone watching, a reminder of what Urban Lux stood for. Jordan stood in the center of the store, his gaze sweeping over the faces of employees and customers alike. The air was thick with a mix of tension and reflection, but Jordan's voice broke through with calm authority. "Respect isn't a privilege, it's a fundamental right," he said, his tone steady yet powerful. "Every person who walks through these doors deserves to be treated with dignity, whether they're a CEO or a delivery driver. That's not just a value. It's the foundation of Urban Lux." His words resonated, not as a lecture but as a call to action. He turned to Linda, offering her a nod of appreciation for stepping up when it mattered most. To the rest of the staff, he added, "Moments like these define us, not by our mistakes, but by how we choose to grow from them." As the crowd began to disperse, Linda stayed behind to finalize the dismissal paperwork for Mark and Rachel. Jordan lingered, his eyes drawn to the gleaming facade of the store, now reflecting the busy Manhattan streets outside. His journey had come full circle, but he knew this wasn't the end. It was a new beginning. "We have work to do," he murmured, more to himself than anyone else, already envisioning the changes he would implement. The next day, Urban Lux announced mandatory diversity training and a new scholarship program aimed at supporting delivery workers with aspirations beyond their current roles. For Jordan, it wasn't just about repairing the moment, it was about ensuring a lasting impact. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Let's ensure lessons like these reach as many people as possible. Subscribe to TAO Stories to help us reach 10,000 subscribers. Together, we can continue sharing stories that inspire and challenge us to be better.